Hey, you, come, gather around the campfire, and welcome to the party. This is Party Chat, a JRPG podcast where we talk about everything that we love in the world of JRPGs and other Eastern titles. I am one of your hosts, Cameron Hawkins, and with me, as always, is my party partner, Kevin Kenson. Kevin, how you doing?
I am doing pretty good. Excited. We have like what, one full day left to take care of our business, and then time for PAX.
Yeah, by the time this episode drops to the public, we'll be in Seattle basically gearing up for PAX, which is super exciting. We got a lot of coverage coming.
Yeah,
A lot of coverage coming next week, y'all. So keep your eyes peeled. Um Hopefully, like, if everything works right, there might be like something every day
just
next
about.
week for just about every day. So it'll be a really good time. We're gonna be on some panels. So that's super exciting. And yeah, very, very excited. Uh I had a pretty good week. I a weekend. I saw like 3 movies over the past weekend. I saw K-pop Demon Hunters sing along event, which we were kind of talking about it earlier before the pod started. That there is certain like there's like a philosophy behind a sing along. You're going to a sing along event showing for a movie, but I think that K-pop Demon Hunters is an anomaly.
Because
And let
it
me explain
didn't.
what.
Is it because it didn't have a theatrical run first, or
Yes. Yes. So for me, I went to the sing along event because I wanted to see this movie in a theater. That was it. That being said, I knew what I signed up for.
sure?
I knew what I signed up for. If there were going to be a bunch of kids dancing and singing along and things like that, more power to them. I'm not going to be mad about that. Uh, but if it, and so if there was a theatrical showing where it was just, hey, here's the movie,
Yeah,
and then they did the sing along, then I would go in there and I would be expecting everyone to be singing, all that jazz. So
for sure.
that my theater was pretty quiet, which I am personally happy about because again, I just wanted to see it in a theater, but I also didn't wouldn't have mind the participation, you
Sure.
know.
Yeah. No, it's
Um
always it's always a weird mixed bag of like getting the theater experience you want, because sometimes it's just the crowd's not going to match your energy. Like I've definitely had that happen a couple times with like anime films where it's the first time it's in theaters like in the West, but there were other ways to like see the movie first. And so sometimes you go to a showing for one of those and you'll have people who are just all like chanting along or saying certain lines, and I'm like, it's cool. I'm happy for your guys' energy. I just want to see this shit in theaters. Like I just wanted to
yep,
like soak this in. And
yep,
those are always mixed because it's like those are not presented as being like a fan fest event type thing, right? Like if something's presented as like a fandom, like hey, come here, like bring the energy, do all kinds of stuff. Cool, awesome. You know what you signed up for. But I hate when it's like the reverse of that, right? Where it's just a regular showing, man. Come on.
yeah. That's fair. And the thing is so interesting is that I've seen so many TikToks of like just wild showings of that movie where like people got like glow sticks and they're all like just waving it around to me. I'm like it's one of those things like again, I would just want to see it in a theater, but I would not have been mad if everyone's participating like that too, you know what I mean?
Right.
It looks like it was a good time. It looks like it was a good time, and I'm definitely glad I went to see it in the theater. I honestly think I liked it more the second time. Like the
Mm,
first time, I think that I didn't real like I recognized like, oh, this is a great movie. Um, especially as someone who like listens to K-pop on the regular.
yeah.
Uh, I thought it was a great movie, but I think that because of the expectations, I was like too honed in on it, if that makes sense.
No, for sure. I
And
get you.
so I was like, okay, yeah, that was good. Like that was a great time. I love the songs. And then the second time, I just like I knew what it was, and so I just kind of just let myself relax and enjoy it more.
Right.
And yeah, I genuinely really love this movie. It's probably my favorite movie I've seen this year. It's really really great. And then I also saw Neza 2.
I've been hearing really good
Um,
stuff about that one.
yeah, so so basically the concept of it, because when I got home later that night, I watched Neza 1.
Yeah,
I watched the first one. Um, and I will say, you don't have to watch the first one to, I would say, fully enjoy the second one.
sure.
So basically the whole concept of it is that there was this chaos demon being of sorts that like existed, and this supreme, not like god but like higher power of sorts, split this guy into two uh entities. There was like the demon orb and the spirit pearl. And then like in the this is all like lore from the first movie. But
Right,
basically he's like, hey, my sons, you are going to give the spirit pearl to this family, and their next child is going to be the spirit pearl. And then the demon orb, he cursed it so that like in 3 years time there's going to just be like this major lightning bolt that's going to kill the demon orb basically. And so what happens is that some one of the brothers is like the bad brother, kind of like a Hades Zeus type situation, and he takes the spirit pearl, and then the demon orb is what gets put into the baby, when he's being born. Um and so like the baby that's supposed to kind of like the chosen one of sorts
sure.
is actually the like a demon
A little demon
incarnate
baby now. Yeah,
person. Yeah, exactly. Um and so like, he's not like a baby, but he is technically 1 years old. He is like looks like a little kid,
sure.
but you know, he can talk. He's like he's just like a kid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um yeah. And so it's really just like the second film is like the spirit pearl, and his name is Ao Bing, I believe. Ao Bing, they have to share bodies because like Ao Bing's body was like taken, and uh Neza has to like pass these trials to become an immortal or whatever. And but he's chaotic. So he's like, I can't do this. You got to do it. So they switch bodies and things like that. And the action is just super well animated, really over the top moments. Very, very cool. The story is solid. Like, it's just like, it's one of those things where, do I think that it should be the fifth best selling film, box office of all time?
Sure.
No, but it's still really good, and I'm glad that like it kind of got this exposure, because I probably never would have experienced it. And after watching the first one, I really enjoy the series, and the way that they set up the next film, I'm like, I'm in. Like, I
Yeah,
want to know what's next. Like, this is gonna be a pretty interesting finale. Um, I think my biggest issue, well, not my biggest issue, but like I think my best comparison of it is like kind of like Neza 1 is like Kung Fu Panda 1, and then Neza 2 is like Kung Fu Panda 2,
mhm,
where like the first one is solid. Like, you'll always be entertained. It's a good watch. Like, you'll have a great time. And then Kung Fu Panda 2 is just like, it's better in every way. It's really really superb, that type of vibe.
right.
So, um and then I saw Black Swan in IMAX. 15th anniversary. Black Swan is one of my favorite films of all time. And that was my first time seeing it in a theater as well. I know when I first watched it, I watched it in my childhood home on my very small like CRT television
Mhm.
with a on a DVD. And I was just like enamored with it. And yeah, it's still, to me, absolute cinema.
I mean, this
Masterpiece.
checks out knowing the things that tug at your heart.
What do you mean?
No, just like I think you tend to, but to be clear, it's not like I'm saying Black Swan is not a good movie. It's an excellent film, but it makes sense that that's one that resonates with you, especially because there is such an emphasis on the idea of like craft and like dedication to improving your like skill set in like the thing that you want to pursue and do. Uh,
Oh, sure,
that is
sure.
that is a track record of just something that like you really enjoy and tends to resonate with you across a lot of different media.
Oh, okay. Cool. I never really thought about it like that, but okay, yeah, okay, I'll take that. But yeah, phenomenal. And like I think that seeing it in a theater, there are certain like just details I never really noticed. Uh, especially with like the audio. Like you hear Natalie Portman's breathing like
Mm.
a, a lot more,
Yeah.
and like it's really fantastic.
No,
I
that's
I
always a big thing where there's especially in a lot of older movies, I feel like there's oftentimes a lot of subtle audio that is just totally lost in like the home distribution version.
Yeah,
Especially more lately. I feel like sound mixing in general has just been terrible for a home version of things. But in theaters, you're really able to pick out those details a lot better and be immersed in it, and like it'll stand out much more clearly and has that separation that you don't really get at home unless you own like a fancy sound system, like a very, very fancy home theater setup.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. Um, did you have anything for us before we go into housekeeping?
No, I think we're good to dive in.
Alrighty. Uh, if you guys have been enjoying the show, please go to your podcast service of choice, give us a 5-star rating over there, and go to youtube.com/at party chat JRPG pod and hit the subscribe button over there. We're almost at 400 subs, so we're getting there, which is awesome. And we are on a panel at PAX West this coming Monday. Monday, September 1st. It is with the JRPG Pursuit podcast, which is Brandon, Emily, and Dala. They've all been on the pod. They've all been a guest. And it's the title of the panel is Nostalgia Reborn: The Impact of Remastered JRPGs in Modern Gaming. It will be at 2:30 p.m. in the Firebird Theater, 5th floor of the Summit Building. This will not be streamed, unfortunately. We are trying to work to getting it recorded. And if that does happen, we did decide to put it on the JRPG Pursuit YouTube channel, because it just gets more reach there. But the audio versions will be on this channel. So if you are an audio listener only, and you don't feel the care to watch the video version, it will be there, and it also will be free on our Patreon. The video version. So, uh, I also am on a different panel now. Over the past week, I've been asked to be on a video game trivia panel by my good friend Jacob McCourt from Crossplay Conversations. Um, I have been on a trivia panel hosted by him before, and I won. So I am ready to get the run back and the repeat.
Get the
And
streak
that
going.
is going to be this Friday, August 29th. Yes. At 8 p.m. in the Firebird Theater, 5th floor of the Summit Building, same room. Uh, so if you are going to PAX and you'd like to see me win at video game trivia, come on through. Uh, I have got to play Toa and the Guardians of the Sacred Tree. We do have a preview up on our channel, whether it be YouTube or podcast services. I got to spend about 4 hours with the game. So if you want to check that out, that is available to you as well. And we're still working on it, but by the time this is up, it should be up. Kevin got to go hands-on with Resident Evil Requiem, Onimusha Way of the Sword, and Pragmata, thanks to Capcom. And we have recorded it. We're just trying to get everything up. We had a really weird experience, technical difficulties recording that episode, so it requires a bit more editing than our normal episode. So if you're just like, hey, didn't Cam say on the last episode that this was going to be up? That is why.
Well,
So we're working through it.
and it is up for audio. It's just the video version. If you want to
Oh,
see some
okay.
pretty gameplay capture, that's the one that's waiting.
I did not know that, but
Oh yeah, no, it has been
yeah.
up
So
on audio.
thank you for that one. Thank you for that one. And hey, we do have a Patreon where you can sub to a bunch of different have different tiers to choose from, and you can get into our exclusive Discord, get the episode a day early, a Campfire Catalog, which are book club podcasts, which we're working on through the Legend of Dragoon and Lunar Remaster Collection, as well as our monthly Q&A that we do, which we should be dropping that sometime next week, hopefully. And yeah, so we got that for you. And lastly, go to youtube.com/Kevin Kenson, hit the subscribe button over there, and let's get him to 1 million subscribers before the end of 2025. That was a lot of housekeeping, so I'm sorry that I was a mess with that. But it's all done now, and we're going to get into the news. Pretty light news week. Not a whole lot going on, but there are some things. It seems that the Clair Obscur franchise is not over. The director of Expedition 33, Guillermo Brochet, I don't know how do you pronounce his name, did an interview, and he basically confirmed that there is seemingly more coming under the Clair Obscur moniker, but what we don't know if that's like DLC. We don't know if that's a new game. It's kind of like we're just waiting to see. But there is a quote here. He says, quote, Clair Obscur is the franchise name. Expedition 33 is one of the stories that we want to tell in this franchise. Exactly what it will look like and what the concept will be is still too soon to announce. But what is sure is that this is not the end of the Clair Obscur franchise, end quote. Kevin, as someone who has finished Clair Obscur Expedition 33, what are your thoughts on this? Does this make sense? Are you curious as to where this is going to go? Or
Yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. I will say, after having finished the game, and really, I think after Act 2, you get a decent idea of like where they could do more with this as like a franchise, and even like the titling. I mean, it kind of walks with what we were saying last week with Black Myth, where it's like, oh, it wasn't Wukong the series, it was Black Myth, and Wukong was just the first entry where it's focused on that particular character, and so that in retrospect kind of applies here too, right? Where it's like, oh, Clair Obscur is the franchise titling, and instead of it being something where it's like, oh, we're going to have this is whatever one and then whatever two, it's like, no, no, no. These are all Clair Obscur games, but we're going to have their own specific title for it. I think what I'm most curious about, especially with how that question was answered, and this was a thought I had too after finishing Expedition 33. As much as I did enjoy like the combat and their take on turn based and adding in things like the parries and dodges and such, I do wonder if this is going to be a situation almost similar to like what Sabotage has done with Messenger and Sea of Stars, where it's like these are all parts of a franchise, but we're not necessarily doing the same core mechanic every time. They might all be RPGs or maybe even specifically turn-based RPGs, but like we're not just going to build up on the foundation of like what the first one is. These are anthology titles, right? Like they're designed to be their own slices. At least that's the kind of vibe I have so far. Like I'd be very curious if the next game would require knowledge of Expedition 33. Like I almost feel like this would be something where you're going to get a snippet of an entirely different story.
yeah, I never really thought about them going in that direction. So using Sabotage as a comparison, like for what they potentially could do, uh, is a great pull. And I would also be curious. Like, I think that it will be some sort of. It'll be inspired by JRPGs. I think that Sandfall has like been pretty
Clear about that.
communicative.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like of their inspirations. And so I am curious as to what that would look like in a different lens or a different light. But yeah, I mean, I've said it before, like I'm not I have my issues with the combat system in Clair Obscur, so I would like some changes, some updates, some quality of life improvements, however way they go about it. But yeah, again, it's not like I hate Clair Obscur. I don't.
Yeah.
And want to see this franchise continue, and I think that like that their success proves that people like are open to having more of it. But I'm also curious as to like, hey, what else do they got cooking that's like outside of this franchise?
Sure.
Um, cool. The Atelier Ryza trilogy is getting a deluxe version of uh their games, and the original versions digitally will be getting delisted. They're gonna have completely separate trophy lists, like nothing really carries over, which I think is super interesting. And I wanted to just basically like let people know what are supposed to be like the new things that are being introduced in each version of the game, and just like each like the trilogy in general. Um, so for Atelier Ryza 1, the DX version of the title will include new playable characters, including Agatha, Kilo, and Rami. I apologize if I butchered any of those names. Players will also be able to discover events happening in parallel with the main storyline, such as the encounter of Kilo and Boss in the underworld, and other events that took place between Atelier Ryza, Everdarkness, and the secret Hideout DX and Atelier Ryza 2 DX. In Atelier Ryza 2 DX, players will be able to play as Empel and Lila, while discovering a new episode in which the two companions meet Ryza at the capital to help her in her journey as she explores a new map. For Ryza 3, the DX version will include a new side story following Clifford and Siri after their separation from Ryza. The two will team up and embark on a journey to help each other achieve their own goals. Fans will also discover a new event that delves deeper into the relationship between Kilo and Boss, as well as explore a new island and its mysterious ruins. Lastly, all games will include quality of life improvements and new features to enrich players' experience, such as the addition of a custom combat mode in which they will be able to choose the level and combination of monsters they want to face. In Atelier Ryza 2, Fee will follow and support Ryza as she explores ruins, helping her find clues or restoring a small amount of the party members' health in battle. Atelier Ryza 3 will introduce a new mount, the Wind Beast, which automatically gathers ingredients during exploration. Players uh, can also now enjoy content that was previously provided as free and paid items in the original 3 games, such as swimsuit costumes, maps, recipes, and more. Additionally, those who previously experienced the Secret series will receive exclusive items to help them start their adventures as save data bonuses. So yeah, so if you have a save of the original versions, you get rewarded when you start the DX version. We have not played these games yet, so
I
this is
started.
just more of a hey,
Yeah.
here are these.
I started the first one a ways back because Atelier is a franchise that I like keep revisiting every so many releases where I'm like, maybe this will be the one where I like get into it. Uh, and I don't remember how far I got. I probably got to the moment that you're introduced to a tutorial about crafting, and then my eyes glazed over because that tends to happen in these games.
Yep,
Uh,
yep,
I would like to go back. This might be that extra shoved. Like, okay, like let's try because I've also heard Ryza in general is like the one a lot of people praise is like, oh, this is the trilogy now. Like this is the one to play if you're going to try to get into the franchise. And
yeah.
now there's going to be even more stuff. Do we know? There's the save data thing. Is there any kind of like upgrade path for people if they already own like a digital version of the game, or is it just like, nope, you got to buy this outright no matter what?
It looks like there is, but it doesn't say how much it costs. Um, so I'm not sure. But what I do know is that it comes out November 13th, and it's going to come out on PS5, PS4, Switch, Switch 2, and Steam. So that's interesting that they're going to have Switch 2 version. I'm curious if because I don't because they're doing a physical release for Switch 1. Um and so which is, through like PlayAsia and some other third party markets. But I'm curious if to like is there just like a free Switch 2 upgrade, or do you have to buy that version digitally?
Yeah,
only to get the Switch 2 version. Like, I do not see any sort of like details
that's
regarding that,
yeah.
unfortunately.
That's been the real fun headache with a lot of the Switch 1 to 2 versions is that there's not a great consistency. Like sometimes it's a free update, sometimes it's a pay for update, sometimes you're just not allowed to at all and you just have to outright buy the Switch 2 version separately. Um be cool if we get clarification on that because that would impact where I would buy this.
Yeah, because I was literally talking about it today, like hearing this news, and I have all three copies of Atelier Ryza. I literally went to my local game store and traded them in, because I was like, I'm gonna get the DX versions now, at least for the physical, right? Like for the Switch physical, but also like if this is a Switch 2 like release as they say it is, and it's digital only, like that kind of sucks because I'm gonna be technically double dipping
Yeah.
when I don't really want to do that. Especially because they're on a backwards compatible console. Yeah, so weird, but hopefully we get more details about that, what confirming what the situation is there. East 10, Proud Nordics, is officially coming to the West in early 2026 for Switch 2 and PC only. So no PS5 version, which is interesting.
Yeah, there's been like precedent for this before. I don't know if this is like a Nintendo deal or something where they like wanted timed exclusivity for another version because like Dragon Quest 11 did that where the original version came out on well in Japan it came out on the 3DS and then PS4 and then when they did the deluxe like better version it came to Switch as a timed exclusive and eventually made its way to other platforms. So there's been situations like this before. It definitely sounds like there's just some kind of deal, handshake, whatever, to like keep it to a specific system. Because this is like a proper re-release, right? Like this would be similar to, say, Persona 5 Royal only being on one platform instead of coming to all of them right away. Um,
That's what that is what I have gauged from it. It came out in Japan at the end of July.
yeah,
So it hasn't been out for super long. Um, so that's what it sounds like on paper.
yeah,
Is that like, hey, this is like the definitive version where they're adding new story content that's like significant enough to justify like a re-release.
yeah.
As someone who played East 10 last year, um, I don't think that game's story interested me enough to justify purchasing or playing at the very least at launch Proud Nordics.
Mhm.
To be clear, still a great game, but just like the story was like, okay, yeah, this was
You're not in
solid.
a rush to replay through all of it again, especially less than a year later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I finished that game and like not even a month later they announced Proud Nordics and I was like, oh fuck off. I
No,
was
a
so
lot of
mad.
people yeah, that timing like, I remember that happening where multiple people were like, "What? Like, we just
Yeah,
got this. Like, why?
yeah,
Why?"
yeah. Thank God Trails does not do that. You know what I mean? Because if Trails did that would be absurd. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to share that news that is coming, and it has been confirmed that it is a game key card on Switch 2.
Burp.
Yeah, NIS has not, as of right now, changed their stance on the game key card situation.
Yeah. I mean, unlikely to happen anytime in the immediate near future. I feel like as much as people have been actively complaining and supposedly impacting sales, all of this was set in stone well in advance before. Like, if there is any kind of reaction to people being unhappy about these cards, I feel like we're not going to see that till next year, maybe,
Yeah.
if that were to happen.
Um. Next story, and this isn't that really a story. This is more information. Corpse Party Tetralogy pack is getting a official, like, major US release through Xseed Games, which is cool and also weird just because the one that was being done through like PlayAsia just came out and people just got their copies and now like, oh, we're actually doing an official ESRB release now. I'm not complaining because I didn't buy it yet, but I know that Chai in our Discord was just like, I just bought this. Like, what do you mean? So I thought that was a thing that I should share. It's now on Amazon. Like you can pre-order on Amazon. I pre-ordered mine. I believe it's $49.99 if I remember correctly when I pre-ordered it. So, and it comes with 4 games. It comes with what are the 4 games again? Comes with Corpse Party, Book of Shadows, Corpse Party, Sweet Sashiko's Hysteric Birthday Bash, and Corpse Party Blood Drive. So those are all the games that are included in there. Um, and then it's also worth noting that Corpse Party 2, Darkness Distortion, has been delayed to 2026, but it is getting a PS5 version added to its slate. So now it's coming out to PS5, PS4, and Switch. And PC, to be clear. And then the last story, which is just a quickie, Demon School has been delayed to November 19th because Silksong. Because Silksong
Yep.
has a release day, everybody. And so we gotta, their publisher was like, nope, we're pushing that back.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that was
which
wild when because they even disclosed that saying like, "Oh yeah, we had no say in this." The publisher was just like, "Yeah, we're delaying. We're
yeah,
not dealing with like."
I was gonna say, it even sounds like they kind of got like completely swept under the rug, where like they were not kind of like informed ahead of time. They're just
Yeah.
like, delay. Hey guys, so we delayed your game.
Yeah. No, like it wasn't any conversation. It was the publisher made this call, and like that's just what it's gonna be. And like I get it. Like as excited as I am for Silksong, I do feel a little bit bad for it being like such a like that game has such momentum behind it that anything in the indie space and even in like kind of the double A and higher space, the moment that just suddenly got announced as hey, it's finally dropping in 2 weeks, that made so many people immediately consider like, do we get out of the way? Like imagine if GTA was just like, oh, by the way, this is coming out next week.
Yeah,
like that's just like this huge impact on everyone's schedules and plans and oh boy.
no, absolutely. It is a monolith, and I I can't blame anyone for wanting to move it. And Demon School, it's been in development for a long time. I've seen the game a couple of times throughout that, and it's super, super promising, everybody. So if you're looking for a good tactics game in the indie space, please check out Demon School. It's going to be really great. Or I'm expecting it to be. Um, but now we're gonna get into what we've been playing,
But before
and we're
that,
gonna pause. Go ahead.
oh, I did want to bring up one quick story too that I just thought was this ties into the Silk Song thing a little bit too. So Quartet released recently,
Yes.
like today, I think, as we're recording. Um, and they were joking about the fact that their last game that they released, like the first game they did before Quartet, that came out basically the same day as Hollow Knight. And so they're
Mm,
just like, we keep dialing in the timing, guys. Just follow along when our games are coming out, and you'll know.
that's actually super funny. Yes, I've heard great things about Quartet, and I actually really want to play it, but kind of just waiting until it hits a console, and
Sure.
then I'll check it out then. Next, we're gonna get into what we've been playing for this week. Kevin, what you been playing?
Uh, been doing my homework, catching up on all the stuff we said we were going to play as part of this podcast. So I finished up Lunar 2, kind of. There's a little bit more. Uh, not exactly a spoiler, I guess maybe like a structural one. There is like more of the game to play after you finish beating it. It's kind of some optional stuff as well as some epilogue story things you can do. So I need to do that part still.
Hmm.
I've started that,
Same.
but otherwise, I have finished all the main story stuff for 2 as well, which yeah, I think we touched on this a little bit last week about how like, I think there's a lot of specific technical things that 2 does better than 1. But at the same time it does I think lose a little bit of like what made 1 special. Like there's a lot of ways where I think I would be like from a technical standpoint, I think 2 is a better built game, but from a like how I feel after playing way, I think 1 landed a little harder for me.
Yeah, Lunar One just has a level of innocence to it, and
Yes.
I'm really and I've just come to learn that I really love those aspects of a JRPG.
Yeah. I think also a degree of like scale as well. Like not that one doesn't get to like fairly grand proportions, but two goes kind of further and a bit more into a territory that I think like we see happen in a lot of JRPGs. I think it was
Hmm.
something nice about how one felt a little lower stakes. Not that the stakes weren't high, but
I don't know if I agree with you. Well,
Mhm.
okay. Yeah, I agree with you in the sense of like the kind of, the final boss in the first game versus the final boss in the second game, like it's definitely like bigger stakes in that sense.
Yes.
But I think that the first game feels a bit, when you get to like those big moments at the end, it feels more grandiose to me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
like
no, I
that's
I
go ahead.
think vibe-wise, 100%. Yes. I meant more of like structurally, like on paper when you're like what the big threatening thing is kind
Sure.
of thing. Like
I
it's
I,
yeah.
I can agree with you there. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Do you so you would say that you prefer the first game as well over the second one, or at this point?
I think so. Like I mean I think it's fairly close and there absolutely is stuff I like more in 2 than in 1. But I think if I just had to like pick one of them and be like this is the one I like more, yeah, I think I lean towards 1.
And I honestly, I don't remember if we did talk about it, so I apologize if we did and I forgot. But now that you've finished, or at least you've gotten to the end and you're starting the epilogue of Lunar 2, like, do you see what I mean with like the combat AI and how like much stupider it is versus the first game?
It feels that way, yeah. There's a couple weird things because, like, 1's AI had issues too, but 2's absolutely runs into some strange issues where it's like, why would you use this move right now? Like, this is not
Yeah.
like, especially when it came to this to like the offensive spellcaster character. It'd be like, oh,
Oh yeah.
all these enemies are
Oh yeah.
grouped up. I'm going to use a single target move. Oh, all the enemies are really spread out. I'm going to use this big AOE move against one guy, and it's like, what are we doing here?
It
Um,
very much felt like that like her AI was like programmed to do certain spells based off of certain enemies
mm,
specifically, because like when you get to that final dungeon near the end of the game, she was kind of like doing what she normally does, right? She'll do like a fireball or whatever, like kind of the more basic fire spell.
mhm.
But then when like these certain enemies showed up, she would cast catastrophe. And I'm like and it didn't matter how many enemies were on the screen. As
Yep.
long as one of those enemies were on the screen, she would do catastrophe, which is like her most powerful all hitting spell for those that have context. And for those that need context. And I'm like, what are
Yep.
you doing?
Why are we
Like that's
blowing through the mana right now? Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. But okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted to run
It
like get an update check on that.
yeah, there's also like I feel like especially for the boss fights, there's a lot of reasons to just stop using the AI because there's a couple like really important moves that the AI will never use. And part of that is because a lot of there are these things you can equip that add more spells basically to each character. I forget the term they use right now in game.
Crests.
Crests, yeah. Uh, and I've had the AI use crests before, but it seems like more often than not, it really doesn't want to. And there are a couple late game crests that are like, "Oh no, you are meant to use this for the final boss. Like you need to
Yes.
make use of this move, and if you're not, you are probably going to die."
Yes.
And
100%. I know exactly what you're talking
yep,
about.
you just have to a bit and it's a little rough because I do think the remaster does train you to just be like, "Yeah, AI, let's just go. Let's just run through, like, let's just auto battle a lot great." And there's just a couple fights where it's like, "No, there are very specific spells and very specific abilities the AI is not going to use that you need to." Which is like honestly, like that's a good thing. Like I like that there's interesting battles that have specific answers. It's just rough when so much of the rest of the game kind of rewards doing the brain off approach to where suddenly you're hit with this moment of like, oh wait, I need to know what my moves do now.
Yeah. I have played the Trails in the Sky first chapter demo.
Hey.
Took me probably took me like 5.5 to 6 hours to beat. And that's doing everything. Um, what a time to be alive. What a what a time to be alive the same time as the Trail series. I think that I think it's near perfect. I think it's near perfect. There's definitely some issues I take with, um, specifically, like, in the combat and, like, the kind of, settings that Trails games normally offer that, were some weird design choices.
Mhm.
Um, but when it comes to everything that makes that series so special, it's all there. It's all there. And also just, like, some of the finer details, because this is my first replay of Sky since I played it the first time, and maybe it was there all along in the first one, but just, like, doing it in this one, I'm just like, "Oh, man, I love how they did this," and, "Oh, man, I love how they did this because I know, like, where the story's going, I know,
Sure.
like, those aspects, and just how they planned like, the way that I think the thing that's so good, especially the first 2 Trails arcs, especially the first 2 Trails arcs, the way that they're able to naturally, like, plant seeds that you don't even realize are seeds until it's revealed to you it's just unmatched. Like,
Yeah.
I've never experienced it in other games before.
Mhm.
Um,
Where a lot of other titles I think are very obvious with, "Here's the thing that's about to happen," or, "Here's the very obvious foreshadowing." Lunar
yeah,
being a great
and
example of this.
yeah, and I think that there's still that part of it in Trails. I think it's like when with the much bigger picture stuff. Um, and or it's at least something that you might take notice of, but you don't really, like, think about it because it just doesn't feel significant enough, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. Until they do make it significant enough. Uh, and so I'm having a I had a fucking phenomenal time with it. Um, I so I wanna talk about the combat, because I think the combat is, like, the most interesting part to talk about at this point. So, uh the combat is in a similar vein as, like, the Daybreak games. It is an action turn-based hybrid, where you can attack in the normal world, you're trying to get the stun bar up, and then you go into tactics mode, where you, like, do the normal turn-based stuff.
Mhm.
Uh, some of the stuff that's interesting about that is that they added, instead of, like so in Daybreak, you have, like, this charge move, or, like, you just have, like, this heavy attack thing that ups the stun. In this one, I think that they kind of, like, they expanded upon that, where if you, press triangle right, like, Estelle will do a flip and slam her staff on the ground, and that does a lot of stun damage. But if you do, like, a perfect dodge and then do triangle, she'll basically do one of her, uh, turn-based mode crafts, Hurricane, in real time. So it's even, like, more powerful, and it has a wider range of effect, which I think is really cool. Um, and it is like an evolution of what we got in Daybreak 2. Um, and then when you go into tactics mode, it's really interesting because it really makes me wonder when they started development on this game,
Mhm.
because the combat in this game has a lot of elements, um from the first 2 Cold Steel games. Because, for those that don't know how, even though Cold Steel is, one arc, there's 2 parts of Cold Steel. There's Cold Steel 1 and 2, and then Cold Steel 3 and 4. Like, between 2 and 3, they switch engines, they visual upgrades, UI upgrades, combat changes, like, a lot of significant things, as if it was, like, a new arc.
Mhm.
Um, and so one of the things that they add is, like, the follow-up system, which was introduced in Cold Steel 1, where, like, uh, Class 7 had these, their orbments were called Arcuses or Arcus, and, they would have to link up with each other, and if you hit, like, a critical, the other person you're connected with would do a follow-up attack. And so they have implemented that in here, and that just like happens naturally. So that is interesting because like the presentation is exactly the same as well. Like where they just like obviously the visuals look a little bit different because it's liberal, it's a different arc, and they want it to reflect that. But like it's like I'm transported back to Cold Steel 1. Um and then on top of that, they brought back Overdrive, which was a very specific combat mechanic in Cold Steel 2, where basically you were able to like attack, act more times than you normally do. Um, they don't do that here. It's more just so that you deal more damage. Everything just is more significant in that sense. But it's just like, oh wow, you brought back Overdrive and reworked it into something else. Like very unexpected. So it's really interesting just how this game is like a mixture of those two arcs or like that specific part of Cold Steel, Daybreak, and then like some of the things that from the Liberal arc all combined into one.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. And there are certain things that I hope to see I wish I saw more of, like how the arts list evolves as you put in more orbments. Like you're only really able, I mean, I'm sure you could do more if you grind it in the demo and put in the work because everything transfers over. But you can I was able to unlock two orbment slots on top of the first one that you get. So half of my orbment slots were unlocked by the end of the demo. And so I'm curious as to what the orbment list looks like because I know I've talked to you about it, and you'll see it when you eventually get to it. But like by the end of that game, like especially with specific characters, you have like a laundry list of different arts you can use, and I don't know how many people really cared for that in the Sky games, but I loved it.
Yeah.
I really loved it because it encouraged me to experiment with the orbments in a way that I don't think the series really has anymore,
Yeah.
and hasn't for a long time.
And so you would say a lot of the later games have toned down like the number of character, or like the number of options for builds like that.
Yeah, the orbit system has very much been
Yeah.
streamlined throughout. And like I will give Daybreak this. In Daybreak they've implemented new things into your orbment to like kind of give you a little bit more variety and like choice and like customization, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. I forgot what they're called, but you have like these like I don't even know what they're called. But like depending on which one you use, you like automatically get a certain list of arts on top of like whatever you're doing with your orbments.
Mhm.
So it's one of those things where uh it just it is what it is, but I'm just glad that the old style of orbments has come back. Because yeah, I do think that whether it be even crossspell, I think that that whole system has definitely been streamlined because and it makes sense. Falcom wants to make this series more approachable.
Sure.
And for most people, the most simple, straightforward systems normally are the ones that get the most traction.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm really excited that hopefully those are coming back. I really hope it does. But we'll have to just kind of wait and see until then. Um,
And out of
and yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, just out of curiosity, as someone who has not really kept up with the series at all, and I'm trying to make my way in this year, uh, how much? Because there's obviously like the games that kind of break down into larger arcs, and then there are individual titles. How much tends to change between like immediate sequels, right? Like in the example of like Cold Steel 1 to Cold Steel 2. I guess what I'm curious about is like for assuming we're going to get a remake of Second Chapter, like following this one, because
Yeah.
why wouldn't they? um, are you expecting that next game to be like, oh, this is the framework that these games are going to be in for a little bit, or could Second Chapter like completely change a bunch of stuff suddenly?
change things how? In what way?
Like mechanically, like would you expect second chapter to handle identically to how what you've been playing in first chapter so far, or would you see them like redoing aspects of this combat? I guess I'm just curious if this like kind of cements the style for the next couple remakes, or like are we going to see that evolve with every release?
So, I think Cold Steel 1 and 2 is, like, the one instance where they really, they brought in a new significant mechanic, uh, to add on top of what was already there. Because like, they brought in, like, in Reverie, which is kind of like its own thing, it's, like, kind of like a epilogue chapter for both the Crossbell and Erebonia arcs.
Mhm.
And they introduced something called United Front, but it's only in that game. But I wouldn't say that like, oh, they're changing things significantly from Cold Steel 4, and that's weird to me. It feels like it's kind of its own experience, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, and so I, you know, I don't think that second chapter is going to do anything like that. I think that um moving to the like assuming that we're going to get that and a remake of third, I think it's all going to reflect the same throughout. Um I will say that I do wish so the visuals do feel like, oh, its own thing in the sense of like, oh, it's liberal, like the menu has like this really nice brown palette that I really love, that's reflective of the Bracer Guild emblem, like love that. Um but there are like very small non-consequential things that that probably only bother me, that I want to complain about, where like when you press like when it shows like the high speed mode, it looks exactly the same as what like the Falcom games have looked like forever.
Mhm.
Or not forever, but like, the past few entries. I'm like, I wish that this was updated a little bit. And like the auto text system, I was like, I wish this looked a little bit, to give it its own identity, because even though this is a remake, this is like an arc that you're starting. This is a updated, remade arc that you're starting, and I want it to have its own identity in the same way that all these other arcs have. Um, and so that's like a very small nitpicky thing. But the thing that I wanted to mention, going back to combat really quick, is that so in the fall, when you get a critical mode, or a critical, or a strike, and you have the follow up thing, and you're in high speed mode, because most people, at least just speaking for myself, play in high speed mode when you're playing through most of the game. The window to press circle or triangle if you're doing like a stronger like team up attack or whatever, it's also in high speed mode. So if you
Yeah.
are not prepared to like know what you're going to do, you miss the window.
Right.
And because this is one thing I forgot to mention, if you do a follow up, you press circle, and then you have like a little circle on the bottom right hand side, and it has 5 increments to become a full circle. And so you need at least 3 increments to do a chain, which is like a double team attack. Um and then you need 5 to do a full party. I don't like I didn't get that part to that point where there's a full party, but I just know from Cold Steel. Um and so like if you are not paying attention to where your increments are at,
Mhm.
I'm like, "Oh, do I press triangle, or do I press circle?" Or like, "Oh, I just wasted a chain when I could have just used a follow-up to win the battle." Like, it's like those kind of like small management things that I'm just like, "Why did they do this?" They need to update it so that like the that part of the game is always at the normal speed.
Mhm.
Because why would you think that people would want that? It's too fast. It's way too fast. And maybe I'm showing my age. Maybe I'm 30, 31 years old. Maybe I'm showing my age, but like I think that's really fast, y'all.
Mhm.
Um, but
How hard is
uh
it to, like, adjust the speed? Like, is it just, like it's just going at that faster rate all the time, and there's no way to slow it down until, like, it's time to enter commands again? Or is it, like, in real time,
so
can
you
you slow it back down?
so in real time you can slow it back down, but you have to hold, and this is another thing that's kind of weird because it never used to be this many steps, being two, but you have to hold R1 and then press L1
Mm.
to turn on high speed mode. So I'm not gonna do like an attack and then like press R1 L1 and then prepare. It just it's not worth
It's
it,
a whole
you
lot,
know.
yeah.
And once I got to the end of the demo, I didn't really struggle with it. I got pretty well acquainted with it. I probably hit it like 9 out of 10 times. And once you figure it out and you really like know like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. You get into this kind of flow state. You can get through these battles really quickly and you're just like ready to go on to the next thing. And so like the idea of doing an attack, then triggering the high speed mode to go off just to get the timing right, like it just doesn't seem worth it.
Mhm.
But I do think that it's something that just needs to be updated and just to give that option because it's just weird that that specific thing is in high speed mode. Like the animations, the cutscenes when you have in high speed mode, those are also uh faster as well, but it doesn't it doesn't ruin anything if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um and like people aren't talking faster, right? Like the actions aren't, the voice acting's not any faster.
Yeah,
So it's just weird to me that that specific thing is just it zooms by, and
right.
I really hope that they get the feedback and update it, and then it's taken care of, and you don't have to worry about it again.
So, I have one other question for you before we move on to our topic.
Okay.
And this is getting a little ahead of ourselves because obviously you've only played the demo. But based on the demo, which is fairly meaty as I understand it, do you think this could potentially supplant the original for you as far as like the definitive way to play this story?
Probably, but I will also it like so the thing is like that there's just very specific things that I just wish were different or more incorporated. Like for example, like the victory theme, right? Um you don't hear that theme unless unless you defeat a mini boss or a boss.
Mm,
You don't hear it in like, when you defeat an ad in the open fields, and even if you're in tactics mode, you just you're back to normal and you're running around. And it's just like it's such a good victory theme that I wish we heard it more.
uh-huh.
And I think that's upsetting. But again, a very specific thing that only. I mean, I'm sure it affects more people, but like I know that this is like an inoffensive change, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Um,
Yeah, this is not a defining aspect of the game type thing where it's like I can't believe they got rid of whatever.
yeah, and just the fact that like most, not all, but most of the original voice cast is back, and they're able to. I wouldn't even say most. It's really just Estelle Joshua and Shara, but just like that, some of them, especially Estelle and Joshua, are able to come back and actually voice these characters for the like in their arc because they came back in like some of the later games and that was great, but there's like, oh, this is their story, this is their arc. I can't wait to see these voice actors do their thing because like Stephanie Shea, like long term veteran voice actor, Johnny Young Bosch, like one of the best voice actors of the modern age, like come on now. uh on top of like Matt Mercer, Michelle Ruff, another voice acting legend. Like Brianna Knickerbocker is fantastic as Tita in the Cold Steel games. And so I'm excited that she's back. Of course, like I wish that some of like all of the original voice cast could come back, and like for whatever reasons, it's been years, right? So like who knows what they got going on. Also like Christina V is Chloe, or Chloe for me, Chloe for the official. Yeah, that like it's a really stacked voice cat. Matt Mercer as Olivier. Like, come on now, what are we doing? Yeah, it's great, and I'm really happy that we're getting that treatment. I also just I do kind of wish it was just turn based. I wish that we got a more callback to that original combat system because
Mhm.
I really like it. It's my favorite of the series, and I know that's not a popular opinion, and I get the justification of like evolving this eventually to a action turn-based hybrid type game series, but man, I really loved the combat. I loved the strategy behind it all, and I miss it. And but I think that there is enough here in the tactics mode, in the turn-based mode, where it's like that's fine.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm happy with it. Uh, two other things, one good, one bad, and then we can move on. Uh, for some reason, almost every time liberal is pronounced in the demo, they say liberal. And I'm
Interesting.
like, No, that isn't correct.
That is not the
It's
name of this
liberal.
place.
Yeah, that's not the name of this place. It's liberal. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
So that's very bizarre. At first I thought it was just like at first I thought it was just like a one-off thing, right?
Mm.
Because the next time I hear it, they say it correctly. I'm like, cool, dope, okay. But then it just kept it went back and it didn't stop, and people just keep saying liberal. I'm like, what's going on here? What's going on here? Uh and then a bonus good thing is that the boss fights, especially like the boss fight at the end of the prologue, was genuinely challenging.
Mm.
And like it was pretty like it was genuinely like, I had to use a lot of items. I had to like really strategize in a way that I haven't had to do in a Trails game in a long time. And so that was really refreshing. I really enjoyed that boss fight, and I really had to work for it, which was dope. Um, but yeah, the Trails demo is on everything outside of Xbox, and if you finish the demo, your save transfers over to the full game when it comes out on September 19th, which all listeners of this podcast are obligated to purchase on day one. Kevin, we are going back to Cali. No, we're going back to the topic that we talked about last week. And this was your topic, so I'm gonna
Yeah. I almost feel like this is
hand it
just
over to
turning.
you.
Yeah, I almost feel like this is kind of just turning into its own thing where I feel like we just start to nitpick certain specific mechanic choices. Like,
Mhm.
I think this is a run. I don't even think we're going to exhaust all the different things we could talk about. The first mechanic, though, I do want to. This is another one that I thought about because of Lunar specifically, and uh, gonna go ahead and give people a taste of a little bit of things I want to talk about when we do our campfire catalog on it. Because something Lunar does that I think a lot of older JRPGs do. We still have some. There are some games that do this, but not as many. Um, the benefits of no party picking, like you're not deciding your party, you're not putting together your favorite characters. It's like, hey, this is the cast, and this is who's with you, and that's who you're going to have for these stretches of the game. And we had this in stuff like, Final Fantasy did this in a lot of the older ones. 4 was this way. Dragon Quest was this way for 2, where, that was just having a party in the first place was like an advancement because you just soloed it in the first one. Uh, but I think there are some interesting benefits to uh, that style of approach. And some of this comes down a bit to also how you handle it storytelling wise, because there are some games where it's like, your active battle party does not represent who's also with you. Uh, and other times, other games will just ignore it entirely. It's like, yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, these are the people in combat, but everyone's around for all story bits. I think a really good example of this actually comparatively is Chrono Trigger, because this was the thing you and I talked about with Chrono Trigger, where certain characters, I think, when someone plays that game for the first time, it's easy to walk away with like, oh yeah, this person didn't really get fleshed out or have much story. And it's like, well, because you never put them in your party. And so much like little dialogue and little bits of persona are locked behind like needing to have
Sure.
them in your active party. Whereas you look at like with Lunar, where again, you're forced to use everyone all the time and they're always adventuring together. Uh, that game is stuffed with bonus dialogue left and right. I mean, every NPC you talk to, there's going to be a chime in moment from someone with you, uh, or multiple characters. Uh, and it's something I really liked. Like going back to that, Final Fantasy IV did this as well, where it's kind of just at the dictate of like what's happening in the story, where it's just oh, Kane's betraying you the 17th time, gonna go back and forth with him leaving, and then someone else joins, and then they either die or go off somewhere, and then you re-recruit Kane again, or what other character. Uh, and I think there are some interesting things about how like also games can like build their encounters off of that, where who you're forced to use in the party dictates how the game can be designed a little bit, as opposed to like, oh, you know yes, there are good characters, weaker characters, better characters, whatever, but generally in a game where you pick your party members, you can just about make anything work. Like there's probably optimal, but like you can get by. um I feel like I've just dumped a whole bunch of different concepts about this. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on some of these ideas.
Yeah, so I I get what you're saying, and I think it just kind of stems from. I mean, part of it is like, okay, so if I'm choosing my party members, are my other party members that aren't in my party technically still with me? Are they still
Right.
traveling with me? Are they still like, are they still having moments outside of the party in the story? Like those are things that I think would need to be put into perspective.
For sure.
Um but I do, and I'm really not trying to be that guy, but going back to Trails, the first Trails game, in Trails in the Sky, they format it in a way that I think really allows the game and for you to like spend time with specific characters for a good chunk of time, and you're like like this is like their part of the story of their like for their introduction, and then you get to see like how their where their character like plays a part later on, right? So like
Sure.
you'll go to an academy, and then you'll meet Chloe, and she is like working with the student council to throw on this play, and then you go to like you go to Zeiss, and you meet Tita, and then her like she's a big like gearhead and an engineer head, and you're helping her like do some things, and you meet her grandpa, and like he's this like profound person. Like you get those character beats, and you get like these world beats, um that by the time like everyone does come together, you're just like, wow, like I really feel like all of these characters stand on their own in a way that like you don't really get in a lot of video games.
Sure.
um I do think that Chrono Trigger is a good example of this, right? I do think that all those party members, whether you use them or not, they do give them room to have like these moments for each other.
Mhm.
Some are more like, I wouldn't say like more interesting than others, but uh I don't think that like those moments for everyone like completely changes my perspective on them as characters, but at least it's just like, oh, they're doing something here to be like, hey, this is this thing that this character is going through, and you're trying to, for you to like be empathetic to them, or understand like a bit more of where they come from, and like why they are who they are, that type of deal. So like I think that when they when developers give the room for those characters to like be focused on, normally the outcome is going to be better. But I also think that if you do have like characters where you do have like a wide span of characters, I think that can also be done super well as well. Like I think that like Final Fantasy VI is probably a good example of this. I haven't really played it, but I know that there's a wide cast.
Yeah, I would say 6. As much as I love 6, there is definitely out of the what is it, 15 characters, 14 characters, I think. There really is like 5, 6 who matter more.
Okay.
And you
Okay.
get like bits for some of them, right? Like there's like little plot moments you can get. Shadow has this whole like hidden backstory thing that like tons of players miss on the first story on their first playthrough because it's activated randomly when you sleep at an inn with him in your party, and like some people go through the whole game and they don't use them often enough or whatever and never have it happen.
Huh.
While like yeah, Terra, uh Edgar, Sabin. There's like a handful of characters I would say like half of the cast definitely gets a bit more screen time than the others. And this is actually a thing that I think Final Fantasy in general does struggle with fairly often. Like I think 9 is another one where as much as I love 9, like there are absolutely those party members that are just far more essential to the story and have a lot more going on. You know, like Amaranth just kind of joins and he's in the party once he joins.
Hmm.
Um uh and then there's other games where I think they balance it better. Like I think this is one of the things I usually praise about 10, right? Is because 10 takes the approach of, well, your active battle party is 3 people, but technically everyone's always with you at all times, at least when, you know, for story purposes they are. Uh, and so they'll still get scenes and everything together. And the whole party actually has like moments and motivations and ties to the plot that are not just like, yeah, and then we recruited this person because they decided they wanted to help us, and then they have no plot relevance moving forward. There's certainly
Hmm.
bigger stars in 10, but I think it does a better job of giving everyone like at least more justification of being around. Because that is the solution that I think a lot of modern games have, right? Is you just ignore the battle party being representative of like who's actually with you. You know, 7 remake even does this in a really silly way where, you know, in original 7 your battle party was who was with you during those bits of story, and you'd get little bits of dialogue that would be different, you know, if someone was with you. And they'd have to call people up on the cell phone to switch them in and out. Whereas the remakes, it's like, okay, no, everyone's always sticking together all the time. The other characters just kind of hang out in the background giving you support fire, I guess. Which was I love how they tried doing it as a solution, but it did feel like it felt kind of elegant and then kind of dumb at the same time because it's like Barrett, just come on, man. I know that gun shoots better. uh, but yeah, I guess I was just thinking back to more when games did kind of give you that harsh division of like, you know, when the battle party represents who's with you. Uh, just really interesting moments that you're able to get in games that made that conscious choice back then, versus ones where like, yeah, you can bring who you want, but it you lose some things. There's less intentionality sometimes, and there's some really big examples of when this goes wrong, right? Like, as much as I love Suikoden as a franchise, it's very easy to like lose a lot of face to characters as the plot goes on because it's like there's 70 different people you can put in your party, and ultimately only a handful of them are going to have interesting dialogue for certain things. Chrono Cross is like a worse version of Trigger, where you can swap in party members and they all have the exact same dialogue. It's just ran through a filter that changes how they speak. Oh, is this something you didn't know about? I just saw that look on your face.
No.
So in Chrono Cross, characters have dialogue based on like, I think it's based on which like party slot they're in, and the game just has like a, oh, this character speaks with this kind of accent, so we're just going to run this same dialogue through this filter that's now going to change it to being like the way they would say it. And there are some specific bonus lines for very specific cases. Like there are times where it's like, okay, you have this character with you and you're going through something that is very specifically relevant to their backstory. You might get like a bonus line out of that. But there's a whole lot of dialogue where it's just like, yep, everyone says the exact same thing. They just have a very heavy accent to make it feel more unique.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
uh
It's very funny too because it's I think if you go to the dev room in that game, which is like a reward for beating it in a very fancy way, uh they even like break that down for you, being like, oh yeah, like we did this as a great way to, you know, we're able to fit all these characters and not have to make our workload so gigantic. And it's like, that's true. This is a very efficient, interesting idea, but wow, does it murder a lot of people having actually like interesting, unique
Personality.
personalities. Yeah.
Yeah.
That went
Yeah,
really
I
off course, but
no, no, I think it's tough, right? I think it's like it's dependent on the kind of story that you're trying to tell. And I think that when it comes to something like, and this is one of the things I actually like about 13, Final Fantasy 13, is that like it gives you time with like different characters, like odd pairings, and it gives you those moments that you probably wouldn't regularly see with them if they were all together as a group for like
Right.
the entire game,
Yeah.
right? Like if you told me that, uh, if you told me like, oh, Zaz and Vanille are going to be regularly talking to each other in the part, like in a full fledged party throughout the entirety of Final Fantasy 13, I'd be like, what? No, that doesn't make sense to me. Like,
Sure.
just because and part of that is like, I don't want to say part of that is stereotypical, but it's just like, I don't know what this black dad is doing with the, he's talking to this like young woman about, like, I don't know, versus like Vanille and Hope, like, oh, those are two kids, like they're gonna be chatting it up, like, or one of them, like Vanille's gonna be talking to Hope, and then you get like Lightning and Hope, who are like the two, uh, like hermits of the group, and they have to like now engage with each other, and I really liked that. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, like Hope doesn't really want to talk to anybody because he wants to kill Snow, and he's not a very like in general he's just a very timid person, and now he's like with this badass woman who doesn't really is pretty antisocial herself, and now they have to kind of get over those aspects of each of themselves to engage with each other, and I like really like that.
Yeah.
um
13's actually a
those are like,
great.
go ahead.
No, go ahead and finish that. So sorry, I thought you.
No, I was gonna say like I think that I I actually like a lot of the moments that we get in video games and JRPGs where the party split up, and you get, it forces these characters to be in certain scenarios that I you wouldn't probably regularly see them in if they were just all together, right? It's kind of like when you're in a group of people, you're eventually, or from the get-go, you're going to have like a person that you are going to lean towards more than everyone else.
Yeah.
But when you're put into these scenarios where you have to work with people that you're not familiar with, it adds a layer of like interest to me, and like, oh, how are these two characters, from what I know about them, how's that going to go, in general. So,
Yeah. No, and what I was going to say is that 13 actually is a great. I can't say a recent example because oh god, that game's actually how old now? But like it certainly is.
16.
Oh no, we're all getting older and entropy and heat death the universe. Anyways, uh, but like that is a game that I think by the time 13 came out, it was more standard where a lot of games kind of ignored the concept of like party members, like battle parties representing what's happening storyline wise. And 13 hard forces that for, you know, the first half, arguably the larger half of the game, where it's just like, no, like you are going to have these exact characters for these plot beats, and you're not going to actually have any real control over the party until, you know, very far into the game. Like, what is it, like the 30-hour mark that the tutorial ends is kind of the joke that people make.
Oh, oh yeah, like probably like 2/3 of the way through the game.
Yeah. It is a
Um,
significant amount, and I will say like that is I'm not as big of a fan of 13 as you, but I also do think it is kind of memed on and overrated. Like I don't think it's nearly as bad as a lot of people treat it as. Um, but that is one aspect that I think is a strength for it, is really giving, because I mean we've talked about this. The party is such a big important thing to me, and that game does do a good job of
agreed.
like spending time with everyone and making them all feel relevant to the story. Because that, more than any other Final Fantasy, that is one where there really isn't a main character. Like it's Lightning, sure, but it's not really. It's kind of it's a very ensemble cast energy.
Yeah, I think that if Sarah didn't play a part in that story as big as she did, which I think is she is like the she is the conduit
The
that
MacGuffin, yeah.
you know, not the MacGuffin, but she's just the conduit of like what leads to everything.
uh,
I would probably agree with you that Lightning isn't particularly like the main character, but I think I still think she is. Um, and I no, I agree with you completely. Like I love I think like the party is like I don't know if I care about the party more than just like the overall story, but like the party does is like top 3 most important things for me. And I think that that's again like with Lunar, I really loved that cast because it was just such a fully realized group of people. And I don't know if like a store I I don't know if a game that doesn't like allow all those characters to kind of coexist during the entirety of the story. Like they can be split up and stuff, but like if it's like one of those things where they're all together and like those that aren't in the party
yeah,
aren't really active in the story, like that weakens the party. It just
sure.
does
Yeah,
by association.
yeah. I think there is to kind of play devil's advocate to my own stance that I started with here. I think there are some benefits that do come from the like it comes down ultimately to what the goal is, right? And I think from the standpoint of like having a strong story, like are really just like, give everyone character development, give everyone like their time to shine and having like the main plot that you want to tell. Absolutely like the kind of enforced party route has a strength there. What I will say is interesting about games where you kind of have like missable character content in a sense, like, not seeing some of the personality traits of Chrono Trigger team members or, not getting certain plot beats by having a specific party member in a Suikoden game when it's like, how would you know to bring this one person out of the 70 different ones I could pick? Uh, there is I think an element of that that does add, um, I don't want to just say like replayability, but like making your experience a bit more yours, because I think that's
Sure.
and that's something I think has been lost in like modern day gaming a little bit. We've talked about this, how like the age of the internet really changed how we talk about games and experience them because there are no secrets, there are no like there's way less intuitive ways of experiencing something firsthand often because it's just so easy to like have stuff thrown at you. I mean, geez, every time I have friends that have streamed games, the number of people that in the comments like tell them the right way to play because they gotta get every plot beat or whatever. Um, there is something interesting I think about those older days of like, yeah, if I played Chrono Trigger growing up and I used Robo and Frog a lot, but someone else used Luca and uh, Marley a lot, like you get different aspects of those characters a little bit and you walk away with different experiences where it's like, oh, like you didn't get this extra little bit of dialogue or this extra little bit of scene. Like it creates like an interesting way of talking about games that again is kind of lost now, but I think was like a really interesting aspect for its time.
Yeah, one thing I'll give credit based off the example that you said or like what it sounds like cuz I haven't played Suikoden is that like if there is this one piece of like dialogue or lore drop that happens if you bring a specific character, like I think that's honestly a compliment to the like the storytellers in the sense of like uh there is like a vision of like what these they want this world to look like and and these characters and their experiences, and it's really they're just kind of making it up to you to discover those things. Now like there's definitely the argument that having 70 plus party members
A
makes that a little bit unreasonable.
little bit of an extreme
But
example.
yeah, but I think that that is a like I think that's a complimentary touch for myself, like for myself. Like if I think that if I was like told that probably as a younger person, I probably would be like they're crazy. And they to a certain extent they are. But it's also just like, huh, that's like a very specific thing and I want to know like why that character is the one that is going to that has that line or triggers that thing like that makes that world that they're trying to create more realized. So
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. There's I think something to be said for another game that actually does this in a really interesting way, and this is one that I don't think you have any real experience with at all. Star Ocean. You haven't
No.
played either of the first two, right? So, do you
Nope.
know the deal with Star Ocean 1 and 2 and like how party comp in that game works?
Nope.
So, this isn't true of any game after 4. Well, okay, they kind of did it in the most recent one, but it's a very simplified version of it. So, it is possible to play through Star Ocean 1 and Star Ocean 2 with very different looking parties. There
Okay.
are like you actually have a max cap of how many people you can recruit, and there are specific trade-offs that can happen where it's like, oh, because you recruited this character, this other character doesn't show up, or because you recruited these two specific characters, like some other character will now join in like a different circumstance. Um,
Wow.
and yeah, and it has some very wide, like, oh my god, the remake of one has something that I have to imagine would be extremely frustrating to anyone that doesn't use a guide, but it's also kind of really cool where there's this like late game hidden thing you can do. And if you have a very specific combination of recruited party members, you like basically unlock a secret character that joins you. And if you don't have that particular combination, there's actually a character you can permanently lose as a result of doing like that dungeon. And it's such a like, and it all narratively makes sense why. Like like there's a logic, there's an internal logic to why this works out this way. But it's kind of wild that they just went like, yeah, just like do this dungeon, and if you happen to not bring the right people, I hope you didn't like that party member. Deal with
Huh.
that. Yeah, just like you'll just lose
That's
them.
that's super interesting. It gives me like a more simplified, because there's it's very lightly choice based, but like a simplified like BioWare experience.
A little bit. Yeah. Uh,
That's very much tickling my brain in a
yeah.
way, for
No,
sure.
it's something I really love about the original ones, especially like it's a little unintuitive, especially if you don't know about it going in. Because, like for instance, in the first game, there's a character that joins you like near the beginning. It's an enforced part of the story that they like meet up, and then it's like you guys basically do a job together. And then at the end of that quest, he's like, "All right, well, that was fun. I'm gonna go do some other stuff." And you can be like, "No, like, come on, stick around, join the party." And 99% of people are going to pick that, right? Like if you don't know that there's limits on like recruiting people and stuff. Uh and there is a character that is just straight up can only join you if you turn that guy away. And you'll just never see that character in your playthrough if you accept that guy in your
Wow.
party. Yeah, and it's like that's just like I wonder how many playthroughs it took back in that time because I didn't play that one growing up. We didn't get the first one in English originally. That
Yeah.
happened later with a PSP port. But like what that experience was of like finding out from someone like, "Oh, you didn't turn that guy away? You might have wanted to because you get this other character instead that does XYZ." Uh,
That's so fascinating.
yeah,
I'm
it's
so interested.
it
Like
is
I was already wanting to play through that series, but uh now that you're explaining it to me like this, I'm just like, "Oh man, like I want to start the series even sooner
it is
now."
my favorite thing about 1 and 2 that makes me very hyper fixated on them and is lost after that. Like 3 kinda does it where basically there's 2 party slots that end up being out of a group of 4. Like there's like just 4 different characters and you're only gonna end up with 2 of them permanently, but you can get any combination of them. Uh,
Okay.
and then after that, they just get rid of it entirely. I think the most recent one, what number is that? 6? That one has an exclusive party member based on who your main character is because you pick whether you want to play as the guy or the
Yes.
girl at the start.
I started Divine Force. I
Yeah,
just didn't get to
yeah.
finish it.
So that one kind of gives you a thing where it's like, oh, there's like a permanent party member that's going to be based on which one you pick, and so there's a little bit of variety there. But in 1 and 2 in particular, it's such an interesting, weird thing, and it really plays with what we're talking about here, as far as like, yeah, the whole party is always present, but then you only pick certain ones to go into combat. But in the case of this game, your whole party is different on different playthroughs. And there's all
Yeah.
kinds of unique bonus scenes you can get based on who you ended up recruiting for that playthrough that is so compelling to me. And I think like
No.
gives more weight to those.
Oh, for sure. I I think that's super interesting. I just don't know, like, I guess I'm curious as to, like, how does that affect, like, the story in the sense of, like, the I because, I assume you just have, like, the one main character, and it's like, what like, do these characters and, like, how their party changes, like, affect the main character in a way, or, like, changes, like, the perspective,
So
like, our perspective of the main character?
right. I I would not say as much. I mean, a little bit. The big thing with those older ones. So the first game, there's four party members that are like locked in for sure, and then the other
Okay.
four party slots are out of a group of like nine. I want to say total. Um, and so there's a lot of variety and like so you can get through a whole like you could end up with a different set of additional four characters. There's because there's more possible ones
Mm,
than ones that'll actually join. And then the
okay.
second game, only two characters are locked in, which are the main two characters that you'll start off as. And there's a couple characters where it's like it'd be kind of weird not to add them to your party because they're not in like an exclusivity situation. Um, but you could turn them down and like try to double up on some later characters as a result. Um, the big thing with those games that they do is what's called private actions. So a lot of the main story, like the big plot beats, are pretty much focused on the characters you know you're getting. Like that's just like they're the ones that actually matter for
Like, the canon cast, the
yeah, the
canon
canon
cast.
cast, which in the second game is literally just two people, right? You'll get like chime-ins maybe from some of the party members, but like it's really just the lead two that matter in that game. And then in the first game, there's four characters that are locked in. But what that game does to really emphasize giving everyone a little bit more time to shine is what's called personal actions or private actions. I forget. Basically, when you go to a town, you can press a button where instead of just controlling your one character and the whole party's together doing stuff, they go into town and everyone just goes off in their own direction and you'll play as the your main character and you can talk to those party members in town and oftentimes there will be like special events you can trigger where a scene plays out or it's part of like a little run of side quests where you get a little bit more characterization out of that person. Sometimes it does add like weird relationship stuff mixed in too. I'm pretty sure there are circumstances where in 2 you can be cheated on. Like if you play as the girl and romance one of the male characters, but that male character is in the same party as one of the female characters a lot, it like you can find like a hidden private action where it's like they're having an affair on the side, and it's the wildest thing. That's like, why is this here? But
This
that's where that
was
game does that a lot.
this is, like, the best pitch on Star Ocean I've ever heard. Because, like, I always thought that Star Oceans were just like, "Oh, yeah, this is like a JRPG sci-fi JRPG," and, like,
Which
there
like
wasn't, like, much else to it than that, you know?
yeah, no,
But now you're like, "Oh, wow."
yeah, and like 3 on, that's kind of true, which is why I always like lament the direction that series went because like Divine Force
Mm.
got better and like I still like 3 and I like End of Time for its own reasons, but like 1 and 2 feel like such interestingly distinct game because of this party mechanic. That I think, really exemplifies what we're talking about here where it's like having that different set of characters and how it lends to like a more unique story for you as a player. Um versus like the strict party, I guess.
I think my main thought process I do wanna go back to Trails, and, well, it's the thing is like, it's it's one of those things where, like, do I really wanna talk about this? Because like, I don't know if I would, like, say it's, like, a surprise of sorts, but it is something where it's just like, when I first experienced it, I was just like, "Oh, shit," like, we're doing this, and it has to do with the party,
Sure.
and I'm just wondering, like, do I want to share that information
You're worried of
and
spoiling.
potentially spoil something?
Yeah. I mean,
It's not
like
like a
what's the
story. It's not particularly like a story spoiler, but it does have something to do with, like, how they deal or, like, how they play with the party throughout the series of sorts, if
Mm,
that makes sense.
got it.
Um, no, I think it's fine because I think at this point, like, there's been so many games. But, like, I think that's what's really great is that, like, there is, like, a core party, of course, like, throughout, especially, like, the main games, like, Sky the Third is kind of its own thing. Reverie's kind of its own thing. But like outside of that, you have like your main cast of characters, and then when you get to like, and you know, the Trails games are kind of set up where it's like you have like the first game, which is like setup, and then you have the second game, which is like payoff. And the second game is really great because like by the time you get to like the second game, there's just like it's not just like the main party. There's like other characters that you've always already known about and stuff like that. That you're just that like at certain points in the story, there's like, okay, I'm a part of the party now, and it's just like, yo, like this character is in my party. Like, what's going on? Like, and how they just like how Falcom is just willing to just be like, yeah, this part of the game, they're in your party, and you just have like so many different party members that you can choose from, and like even though like they won't play like a part when it comes to certain story moments, if that makes sense, it doesn't matter because you already know all of their story and stuff. So like what they like say in dialogue doesn't really add in a major way where it's like, oh, I wish I had this character because they're gonna say like that's
Sure.
not really a thing. So it's really cool how it's just like, oh, so you know all of these characters that you've come to know over the past like 200 hours across these two games? Choose one. And it's like, this is sick. This is sick. And the series does that several times. And when you get to Reverie, there's like over 50 characters that you can play as, and you know all of their histories, you know all of their backgrounds, and it's just like, and it really is just like an achievement. It's
Yeah.
just like an achievement that Falcom has done.
Well, and that's been the
Um,
thing with like the next entry, right? Is that it's kind of a not an anniversary, but it's kind of like a culmination point for like a lot of the arcs thus far, where it's going to have like a massive cast.
I think it's so Reen and Kevin, who are two of the protagonists, do come back in Horizon, but this is not like a Reverie situation.
Got it.
This is a think of it as like a Cold Steel 3 situation where it's like, hey, this first half of this arc is done. Now we're starting a new half of this arc, and we're starting with Beyond the Horizon, Trails Beyond the Horizon, and then there's probably going to be Trails Beyond the Horizon 2,
Gotcha.
probably. And then that'll probably be the end of that arc. Um, but yeah, there's just like there are so many ways that you can just play with how you form parties, how you play with party members. Um, honestly, like I am pretty like traditional. I just like, hey, all the party members are here. Be relevant in the story. Be relevant in what's happening right now, and we're good.
Yeah, that's actually I've had that. Uh, I've had that debate before with some people in terms of like why you pick certain party members because I know one guy where he's just like, who were the first three people I got? Cool, that's the party. Like it's just these are the immediate ones, and then other people where it's like, no, these are the ones that I feel have the heaviest weight to the story, and then some people just pick based on like, I like this character, right? Um,
Absolutely, 100%.
yeah,
Like my core four. Okay, well here's the thing. I think you have to have Estelle and Joshua in your party. I think that's like required. I don't remember, but even so, like I do feel like whoever the main characters are, because like yes, Estelle is the main character, but Joshua is like a second main character. Like he
sure,
just is. Um, and I think that like when it comes to 3 and 4, like again, I love everyone in that party, but if I have to pick two, I'm picking Chloe and I'm picking Olivier. Those are my, not in that order, but like those are my two favorite characters of of those party members. I love Tita. Like Tita is like right there, and everyone else in the party is great as well. I just like it's like, oh, favorite character? I don't care what you do. I like your personality and I
yeah,
want you in the party.
yeah,
It's all based off personality.
yeah. That's a I balance that a little bit in because I mean, it's a little easier to make choices in games where you don't have gigantic casts, and it's like, okay, cool, like pick three out of six or seven. But like with Suikoden, for example, when you get into that like massive cast list, I tend to be like, okay, who are like three that I feel should be here because of story. Like Aiden Chronicle recently was another one where I did that, where they have the very obviously pitched these the three main characters. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna put them in the party. Uh, but you have enough room to where then it's like, okay, who else do I want to pick then? Like, who do I just think is cool? Like, who is a neat design and has like 2 lines of dialogue in the whole game? Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there another topic you wanted to talk about?
I feel like we got pretty good mileage out of just that. We're at a point where I'm like, we could open up something else, but I think we got a good, I think we got a good one here.
Okay, yeah, we can save it another one for when we our episode after like PAX and everything like that. So that sounds good with me. But yeah, in short, like I do think that it's cool when uh different teams think of different ideas with when it comes to party members and um one game I want to talk about really quick, and this isn't particularly a JRPG, but I do think it does some really dope shit with party members
Mm.
um and narrative of the party member. And that's Indivisible.
Oh yeah,
I don't did you play Indivisible?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Indivisible is basically like a 2D action adventure platformer of sorts, and its combat system is very in line with the Valkyrie Profile
yeah.
games. Um, and the characters are all, I feel like basically all of them are very like unique, creative characters, and they I there's one particular character that I want to talk about that I think is so fucking cool. And I don't do you know which character I'm going to bring up?
No, to be honest, like I played it back when it came out, and to be honest, it's a bit of a blur to me.
Okay.
I don't
So there's
remember.
I don't remember the character's name, but I know what he looks like and I remember his whole shtick. So there's this character, and he's like this black, tall, elderly gentleman. He's like a musketeer. And his whole backstory is he is looking to get revenge on this guy. And uh he has like a side quest mission where like you help get revenge on that guy. Before you do that, because he has like like a revolver or something for a weapon, when he reloads, you see his chamber, and he always leaves a single bullet in there that has like the initial, either his initial or the initial of the guy he's out to kill. And I think that is the sickest shit ever. I think that's the sickest shit ever. Like and then when you like when you finish that mission, I don't remember what happens. Just play Indivisible. Really great game. As I've said before on this podcast. Um the the bullet's gone, and it's just like a complete empty I'm like, this is character. This is character development. This is character
Cinema.
design. It's really good. It's really good. And I like that is one of the big things I walked away with, like, what a cool idea for a character. And I wish that we got like more things like that where it's just like, oh, here's a narrative element of this character that we are implementing into the gameplay.
Yeah,
And I love that. I think it's great.
I have
Anyway,
no counterpoint other than yeah, that's cool as hell. No,
yeah,
Indivisible is a neat game. Like I sometimes want to go back and replay it to like refresh it in my memory because I think
it's
I
so
understand
good.
why it was not like a huge hit, but I think it did some interesting, unique things that I don't see a lot of the other games push for. In particular, with how out there the party options are. Which like there's a narrative reason for it because it's the whole incarnation thing, but like that's cool that you're able to get this kind of very flavorful, very varied options for party members.
Yeah, and man, what could have been though? Because you remember all those like indie collabs that were supposed to happen?
Yep.
They were gonna do like Shovel Knight and The Prisoner, and like, just like almost any like notable indie main character you can think of. that from an action game was gonna be an Indivisible. I think Juan from Guacamelee was going
Juan
to
was
be
gonna
in
be in
it,
there,
like
Drifter from,
Hyperlight Drifter.
Hyperlight, yeah. I think
Dude,
Shantae was, like, one of the most some of them did make it in, I think. I think 1 or 2 did happen, but yeah, like, the full list of collaborations that were, like, going to happen for that game, um oh, Red from, Transistor was one too, like,
oh
on the
my
table,
god,
and
dude.
yep.
What we could have had. Because again, like, because the characters, they're like the combat design for the characters were so good. All of them were so creative. Like there was like this biologist that like that she was like one of my OGs that like I kept in the party like the entire time. She used a oh, what's the thing that you do to crush?
Mortar and Pestle?
Yeah, a mortar and so she would like throw down the pestle. The pestle's the bowl, right?
Yeah, yeah, and the mortar is
And
the
and
thing
then
you crush,
yeah, and then
yeah.
use the mortar and just fucking fuck people up with this giant mortar. Peak character design. Loved it.
Actually, wait,
But
we
yeah.
switched them. Pestle is the thing you crush with, and
Oh,
then
okay,
mortar is
pestle. Okay,
yeah, anyways, the
okay.
point is
You know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
Um, and I just again, not a JRPG, but I think that JRPG people will really like this game.
I think it lines up fairly like, I mean, because it is a Valkyrie profile inspired game. Like, that's its main it's trying to do Valkyrie profile gameplay, in a different format, and, like, I know it's not a traditional JRPG by any stretch, but, like, I wouldn't be mad calling it one.
It has the elements and inspiration, but I just wouldn't genre like put it on under the genre umbrella of it. But
Sure.
like I just think that anyone like listening to this podcast that's looking for an indie game to play, I think it's really good. Again, I gave it a 9.5 at Dual Shockers. Like, do I uphold that score? I'd probably have to replay it if I'm being completely honest, but I still think it is like top I mean, definitely like top 15 probably favorite games I've played since it's come out. Like it's fantastic. Like genuinely great surprising moments in the story. Again, combat like always fun like and just trying to master like your combos like as if you're like playing like a fighting game. Um really great stuff. Really great stuff. Anyway, that's it for this week's episode. Kevin, do you have anything for the people before we dip out?
Nope, just have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah, and we hope if anyone, comes to our panel or sees us at PAX that's listening to this podcast, do not feel afraid to say hi to us. You know, we're
100%.
we're we're friendly. We're not, we're cool people. At least I think we're cool people. And so
Uh,
don't be afraid to introduce yourself. Thank you for, listening to the pod, regardless if you're going to PAX or not. You can follow me on socials at CamFinalMix. You can follow Kevin at socials at Kevin Kenson. Thank you to everyone for listening to this week's episode. Until next time, catch you later.
Later.